Okay, good. I wasn't unmuted. I tried to unmute myself, and then I had to surrender to the power that is, and they unmuted me. So I am delighted to see you. The first thing I want to do is thank the team this morning. And I'm going to be really honest here. Betsy's reading was so good that I'm inclined to look at all of you and say, let's just call it a day and go back in the kitchen and make coffee. She led us into a consciousness that awakens within us a receptivity to spirit unfolding within us, friends. And so this reflection of our mid-year inventory, I want to refresh you for a moment, and for those who were not here last week, to bring you up to speed. We talked about looking at the year 2020, its trials, its tribulations, its successes, its surprises, and found that in the middle of July, it would be a good time to take an inventory, a review, whatever term you choose to use, to look at where we've been and see where we might like to go and how we can get there. And this is based on a promise that Jesus made to us when he said, I have come that you may have life and have it more abundantly. And I've always liked to add my own interpretation of that, which is not have it in stingy little bits and parceled out little pieces, but fully, freely, and joyfully. And what we talk about is full, F-U-L-L, to live a full life. And I realize that those four letters illustrated four of our powers. Thank you. That was a technical move. Four of our powers. Oh, wait a minute. That was the wrong move. Somebody put me back on the spotlight. Okay. Or do whatever you want to do. I'm just going to keep talking. Okay. And, that may have been an error on my part. Oh my God. Okay. Oh my gosh. I didn't pull the angel card surrender this morning, but if that's what I'm getting, that's what I'm getting. Continuing, F-U-L-L. And I realize that it's four of our powers, four of our capacities or potentialities, which we participate in the attributes of God. And that first one is faith. And last week we decided that it was a willingness to engage in whatever arises, whatever comes up in life. It's my little phrase of suit up, show up, do what comes up, to be willing to fully engage and participate in the creation of the universe, in the manifestation of God in our daily life. The other word was understand, which traditionally we have always taken Charles Fillmore's definition is that knowing that God stands under all that is, which really is our foundation. As we have said earlier in the service, there is only one power, one presence in the universe, God, the good, omnipotent. And then we can continue by saying this one that is all is perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance. And continuing, I am an individualized expression of this perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance. And so that is what our understanding really means. And when we understand that, I suggested to us that it prepares us to be in service to God. It prepares us for the God moment. Well, now the God moment, I guess y'all had a God moment in up northern Oakland County. We didn't have that God moment down here in Washtenaw County. Or if we did, the cat and I slept through it. So I was rather surprised when Betsy said you had violent storms. We had nothing. I guess we had a little bit of rain because the deck was wet, but we slept through it peacefully, each according to what was determined for us. So we look at these two words, faith, which is a willingness to engage, and understanding, so that as we engage, we are grounded in this awareness that what is good. we remember that Jesus also said, it is the Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. And the kingdom is our ability to live in the creative matrix, which is what life is, which is what we are. When in Genesis, we speak of creation, the Garden of Eden is a matrix of creation. When we say in Genesis 1:26, and God created humankind in God's image and likeness, it is as creator. So we are always at the point, always at the moment of potential creation. Which brings us to our mid-year review and the first of the letters L. Going in the order that we usually study the powers, the next word is love. And I was thinking, well, I'll consult the authority, of course, and I will look under Charles Fillmore and see what he says about love. And what he says is quite simple. It says love, and for those of you who like to look in your book later, it's on page 125 of Revealing Word. Quote, love is an inner quality that sees good everywhere and in everybody. It insists that all is good. And by refusing to see anything but good, it causes that quality finally to appear uppermost in itself and in all things. And then he adds one more sentence, which I feel is important. Love is the great harmonizer and healer. And as we find in Romans chapter 13, verse 10, love, therefore, is the fulfillment of the law. Now, the law is that we are to love the Lord our God with all our heart, with all our soul, with all our mind, and our neighbor as ourselves. So this love has taken on many connotations in our 21st century life. I read a book many years ago, and I preached from it on more than one occasion. And the title of the book is God is a Verb. That's not what we were taught in Sunday school. God was something mysterious up in the sky on an imaginary throne. And I like to remember what St. Paul said, when I was a child, I thought as a child. And now that I am no longer a child, I understand that that may have been a good image, but it's an erroneous image. God is, friends, all that is. God is the ever-permeating spirit that indwells each and every one of us. God is a verb. It is an action. Love is really our response to God's call. Remember a little earlier I said I have this little 3-sentence saying that I like to use when I wake up in the morning. Suit up, which means get out of bed and get dressed. Show up, which means prepare my mind and body to be ready. And then do what comes up. Deal with whatever is presented to me that day. So love is our response to what God gives us in the course of the day in order to be the creating agent in this, the manifest world. God's love is our call. It is a response to his, her, it call. I found a wonderful story that I think really illustrates this. This story takes place in New York City. It was a hot day in Brooklyn. Boy, we know what a hot day is like wherever it is. But this was a hot day in Brooklyn. And a mother was there with her 2 children. And standing just outside the park was another woman with a metal cart covered in plastic wrap. And inside it were dozens of churros. Churros is a Latino dish. It's yummy food wrapped up in a tortilla. It's good, folks. She'd obviously made them at home. She'd obviously put them into this metal cart, wrapped it up in plastic so it would be clean and safe. Inside it, as I said, were dozens of churros. She also brought with her 2 young children who sat quietly beside her. I think this is not a picture with which we are unfamiliar. A mom who's making a living, has no daycare, and takes the kids to work. The first mother, who was there with her children, watched, and the woman sold a few churros, and then dark rain clouds began to gather in the sky. And the mom began to collect the toys the children were playing with, and she figured, I better get these kids out of here and get them home. She wished that she had brought some money with her so she could buy a couple of churros from the lady. How many of us have gone out of the house with nothing in our wallet or without our wallet just to take a walk around the block and then wished we had abundance? We have abundance, but let's see how this story unfolds. So she was thinking, I wish I had some money, but she didn't. Just in that moment, a man approached the lady with the cart. He looked at her and said, how much for all the rest of the churros? She thought a moment and said, $88. He opened his wallet, took out $100 bill and handed it to her and walked away with all the rest of the churros just as the sky opened and the rain began to fall. Friends, if we don't see this as divine order, we need to take our sunglasses off or our blinkers off. This is such a perfect illustration of how our unity principles work. There's love here. A mom takes her kids to the park for a nice day of fun. There's also love in the mom who's taking her kids with her to work so she can watch over them and see that they are safe while she makes a living. The next thing that happens is that the weather changes. And the first mom is thinking, wow, the other lady's going to get rained on. Her churros are going to be ruined. Gosh, I wish I had some money to buy something. I would like to bless her by buying a few of these. But she doesn't have the means. And then divine order sends a man with a good wallet. I've known people who've walked around with several $100 bills in their wallet. I'm not that kind of person. About the only time I'm walking around with several $100 bills in my wallet is going straight from the bank to the township hall to pay my property taxes. But here was a man with the means, and he asked how much for the rest of the churros. And the lady gave him the honest price, $88. And he handed her the $100 bill and walked away. And since this transaction was completed, then nature was allowed to take its course. What we have seen here is the faith that there is goodness and love in the world, that the power of intention, gee, I wish I had some money to buy some churros from the lady. And we know that we make an impression on the universe, friends, when we think, and who knows if she didn't mutter the words under her breath. And then what happened? The perfect person with the means appeared, gave the lady the $100 bill, and probably went back to his very expensive car with the churros, and she was able to take her home, her children and her little cart home safely as the rain began to fall. I find this example of love, of faith, of understanding, including intent and willingness to be in response to God's call, very moving. So that's the first L. It fits with the second L, which is life. And actually, life is the last power, which we generally discuss when we are teaching the 12 powers. And what is life? Well, as always, I went to Charles Fillmore, and this is on page 122. He says a lot of things, but this is the one that really grabbed me. Life is divine, spiritual, and its source is God, Spirit. And then he continues, the river of life is within man in his spiritual consciousness. He comes into consciousness of the river, quickened with new life and vitalized in mind and body only by consciously contacting spirit. This contact is made through prayer, meditation, and good works, which is why Unity has always stressed the importance of our prayer and meditation. But it's not just holding good thoughts, folks. It's going out into that creative matrix of the world and engaging. So I have a second story that I would like to tell you. I found this on a news feed. It's about a couple, and let's call them Bob and Sue. Very common names, because I wish to protect their privacy. Bob and Sue are a married couple, and after a period of trying, they are delighted to discover that they are going to have a child. Now, here's something about Bob and Sue that you need to know. Sue she's a high school teacher. She teaches at a small town school. Bob used to be a nurse anesthetist until he had an illness which required brain surgery. And though he survived, there were complications and there were very negative consequences. One being that he really has tremendous balance and agility issues, and he is not able to walk. He gets around in a wheelchair. But Bob was a stand-up kind of guy, and though he was thrilled that they were expecting, he realized that he would never be able to take his child for a walk. He wouldn't be able to do that simple thing of pushing a baby carriage or a stroller down the street and taking the child for a walk. It made him sad, but it's okay. He took the joy that they would be having a son. His wife, however, thought about it. And one day when she was at school, she was talking to the shop teacher. Okay, some of you remember shop at which you made wooden boxes. I actually have the wooden box that one of my sons made in shop. I think we're well past the wooden box stage, folks, with our technology today. And she said to the shop teacher, I wonder if there isn't some way that a baby seat or something couldn't be attached to Bob's wheelchair so he could take the baby for walks. The shop teacher said, I don't know, but let me run it past my shop class. So he went to the shop class and he told his students about the desire. Well, especially when they found out that it was Miss so-and-so, it was Miss Sue, who was a teacher at school, and many of them knew her. They said, yeah, we're on it. And like teenagers who haven't experienced much failure, they got right to it and tried every possible idea. They ordered pieces online that were expensive and hard to deal with. Finally, they did what most of the rest of us do. They went to their local Home Depot and they bought some rods of metal and screws and stuff like that. And they set to work. Friends, I wish that I had the technology, but I'm not smart this way, to show you the final picture of Bob in the wheelchair with the baby in the baby seat attached to the front of the wheelchair, and he is wheeling himself down the street and taking the baby for a walk. Friends, this couple's vision of life was a full life of having a child whom they could love whom they could have fun with, whom they could go places with. And that's the vision that everyone held. And I feel that that vision, without their knowing it consciously, was driven by those attributes of faith, of understanding that we are called to service, of love, which is the motivation to answer God's call however it comes. And the result, of course, was a full life for this couple and their child. This is what we're talking about when we look toward the rest of this year. Each one of us, I was going to say, needs to go into our closet. I don't know why I said that. It just came into my mind because so how often in scripture did it say, go into your closet and pray? Maybe your closet would be a good place to pray now, because right at the beginning of the pandemic, most of us went through our closets and cleaned them out. So we actually could go into our closet and be open to new ideas. Maybe if literally we walk into our closet today and look around, we will be struck by the sight of something new, something different. Remember, last week I said that part of understanding was listening without judgment. Listening without preparing our response, but being open. What are we open to? To Spirit speaking to us. These stories this morning bring us to a place of looking forward. We're in the last week of July. It's hard to say what the rest of our summer is going to look like, but I think there are some certainties. It's going to be hot. It's going to be humid. There's going to be a lot of water in it. There's going to be a lot of fire in it. There's going to be a lot of sadness and suffering. The COVID Delta variant is raging in various parts of the country. There will be sickness. There will be death. There will be sadness. What else could there be? There could be joy. There could be energy expressed. There can be oneness in understanding that life as we create it is an exercise in unity, the union of us all as the expression of God, the infinite. That's why diversity is so fantastic. I know there are people who are distressed by the fact that by 2050 in the United States, we're all probably going to look like a cup of cafe au lait, coffee with cream. I actually think that's going to be fantastic. But for those who don't, I invite you to look beyond the surface of the skin. And the way we are taught in unity to look beyond what we see to rather what we can experience within through the openness of the heart. In the word life, Fillmore also said, life is not in itself intelligent. It requires the directive power of an entity that knows where and how to apply its force in order to get the best results. That's a little complex. And I think that Ernest Holmes, the founder of Science of Mind, said it a bit more succinctly when he said, there is a power for good in the universe, and you ought to use it. Not just like, well, it's there and you could if you want to. No, you ought to use it. Because we go back to Genesis 1:26 when it says, and God created man in God's image and likeness. And what is that image? That image as creator. Creator of what? Creator of love and creator of life. We've got 6 months to go till we're together at Christmas. when we will be lighting the 12 power candles, please God, in the sanctuary and experiencing the joy of being with one another. Let us use that time as individuals and as a community, a spiritual community, the spiritual community Unity Church of Rochester, to bring forth the vision of which we spoke earlier. Where there is no vision, the people perish, meaning the people do not thrive. But we create that vision as individuals. We share it as a community. Let us do that together so that by the end of 2021, we have known a full life, full of faith, full of understanding, full of love, and therefore life. Thank you, and God bless you.